Somewhere, right now, a star is dying. Not metaphorically, literally collapsing under its own gravity, releasing more energy in 10 seconds than our sun will produce in its entire 10 billion year lifetime. And here's the terrifying part, you will never feel it. You will never see it. Because the universe is so incomprehensibly vast that even light, traveling at 186,000 miles per second, would need longer than the age of human civilization just to cross one tiny corner of it. Most people go their entire lives never truly grasping how strange and enormous reality actually is. But 5 books changed that for millions of people. 5 books that don't just inform you, they rewire you. After reading them, you will look at the night sky differently. You will look at a tree differently. You will look at your own thoughts and wonder, what even am I? Let's start with the one that sold over 10 million copies and sat on the bestseller list for 237 weeks. In 1988, a man who could not move his hands, could not speak without a machine, and had been given 2 years to live back in 1963, published a book that would sell more copies than the Bible in some countries. Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time asked questions that humans had whispered for thousands of years. Where did the universe come from? Does time have a beginning? What happens inside a black hole? And then it answered them, not with mythology, not with philosophy, but with physics. Hawking explained that time itself started at the Big Bang. Before that moment, 13.8 billion years ago, the question, what happened before, is literally meaningless, like asking what's south of the South Pole. There is no before. Time didn't slow down at the beginning of the universe. Time didn't exist. And black holes? They're not empty. They evaporate. They hiss. They radiate energy in what's now called Hawking radiation, discovered by the man who couldn't hold a pencil. This book doesn't just teach you science. It teaches you that the universe plays by rules so bizarre, so alien to everyday experience, that even our language barely has words for them. But Hawking only cracked the door open. Brian Greene kicked it off its hinges. His 1999 masterpiece, The Elegant Universe, introduced millions of people to something called string theory, and the idea that reality, at its deepest level, is made of music. Not metaphorically. Literally. According to string theory, every electron, every quark, every particle that makes up your body and the chair you're sitting on is actually a tiny vibrating filament of energy. One-dimensional strings, looping and oscillating in 11 dimensions of space. Different vibrations produce different particles, like different notes on a violin producing different sounds. The universe isn't a clockwork machine. It's a symphony. Greene writes with a gift that's almost unfair. He makes you feel the elegance of equations you'll never solve. He describes how Einstein spent the last 30 years of his life chasing a single unified theory, a mathematical framework that would explain everything from gravity to light to the atom. Einstein failed. But the search he started may be the most important intellectual journey in human history. And Greene makes you feel like you're running alongside him. After this book, the word dimension will never sound ordinary again. Now, what if the greatest physics teacher who ever lived wasn't a teacher at all, but a prankster? Richard Feynman won the Nobel Prize in 1965. He helped build the atomic bomb. He cracked safes at Los Alamos for fun. He played bongo drums in strip clubs in Las Vegas. He once learned to read Mayan hieroglyphics just because someone said it was impossible. Surely you're joking, Mr. Feynman is not a textbook. It's a memoir, and it might be the most joyful, electric, alive book ever written about what it means to truly think. Feynman had a philosophy: understand everything from first principles. Don't memorize, derive. He once sat in a Brazilian samba club and learned to play the frigideira, a metal instrument, well enough to perform in Rio's carnival parade. He approached physics the same way. From pure curiosity. Zero ego. Total delight. And this book does something the other 4 cannot, it makes you want to be smarter. Not to impress anyone, just for the sheer, intoxicating pleasure of understanding something deeply. Feynman once said, would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned. Read this book and you will feel that in your bones. Here's something that will genuinely disturb you. Right now, beneath your feet, if you're anywhere near a forest, there is a network more complex than the internet, older than the Roman Empire, and completely invisible to the human eye. Peter Wohllebens' The Hidden Life of Trees, published in 2015 and translated into 48 languages, revealed that trees are not passive organisms. They communicate. They nurse their sick. They remember. When a giraffe begins eating an acacia tree, that tree releases a chemical signal into the air within minutes, a warning. Neighboring trees, receiving that signal, pump bitter tannins into their own leaves before the giraffe arrives. Trees warn each other. Mother trees, the oldest, largest trees in a forest, send sugar through fungal networks to their seedlings growing in deep shade, keeping them alive for decades, waiting for a gap in the canopy. Scientists call this the wood wide web. Wohlleben calls it what it is, a kind of family. Trees that are cut off from this network grow faster but die sooner, like children raised without community. After reading this book, you will walk into a forest and feel, genuinely feel, that you are surrounded by a living, breathing, ancient intelligence that has been there long before you arrived and will be there long after you leave. And now we reach the strangest book on this list. A book that took Douglas Hofstadter 20 years to write. A book that won the Pulitzer Prize in 1980. A book that blends mathematics, music, art, and artificial intelligence into a single terrifying question: what is consciousness? Gödel, Escher, Bach, An Eternal Golden Braid, or GEB, is structured as a conversation between Achilles and a tortoise, mirroring Bach's musical fugues, while simultaneously explaining the most destabilizing theorem in the history of mathematics. Kurt Gödel proved in 1931, and this is not an exaggeration, that in any sufficiently complex mathematical system, there will always be true statements that cannot be proven. Always. Not because we lack the tools, but because self-reference creates loops that no system can escape. And Hofstadter's jaw-dropping argument is that consciousness works the same way. Your sense of I, yourself, is a strange loop. A pattern that perceives itself perceiving itself. You are not I in your brain the way a driver is in a car. You are the loop. The pattern. The music the neurons play. This book is genuinely difficult. It will take weeks. But finishing it feels like suddenly seeing in a color that didn't exist before. You will never think about thinking the same way again. So what do these 5 books have in common? They each attack the same hidden assumption, the assumption that the world is basically what it looks like. That atoms are tiny balls. That trees are just wood. That you are a fixed, solid self moving through neutral, empty space. None of that is true. Atoms are 99.9999999% empty space, meaning the chair holding you up is mostly nothing, held together by invisible forces. Trees are networked social organisms that predate the dinosaurs by 300 million years. Space and time bend, warp, and stretch. They are not a backdrop to the universe, they are the universe, rippling and curving around every grain of mass. Your consciousness is an emergent loop, real, but not located anywhere you could point to. And the cosmos you live inside began 13.8 billion years ago from a point smaller than a proton and will end in a cold, dark, silent heat death so far in the future that the number of zeros required to write it down would stretch further than the observable universe itself. These books don't just add information to your life. They dissolve the walls of the box you didn't know you were living in. Here is what reading these books actually does to a person, and I want you to take this seriously. There is a concept in psychology called cognitive restructuring, when new information is so profound it doesn't just add to your worldview, it replaces the foundation. Studies from the University of Pennsylvania show that awe-inducing experiences, whether from nature, art, or ideas, measurably reduce self-centered thinking, increase generosity, and physically slow your perception of time. These books create that awe, repeatedly, for hundreds of pages. People who read Hawking report feeling less afraid of death. People who read Wohlleben report stronger environmental values, not because they were lectured to, but because they genuinely fell in love with the natural world. People who read Feynman report higher curiosity scores and greater tolerance for uncertainty. And people who finish GEB, the brave souls who make it to the end, often describe the experience as spiritual. Not religious. Spiritual. The feeling of touching something enormous and true. That is what great science writing does. It doesn't make the universe smaller and more manageable. It makes it bigger, stranger, and somehow, impossibly, more beautiful. The universe is 93 billion light-years wide. It contains 2 trillion galaxies. It has been running for 13.8 billion years and has at least another trillion years left to go, probably far more. You are here for roughly 80 of those years, on a pale blue dot, orbiting an unremarkable star, in the outer spiral arm of one average galaxy among 2 trillion. And somehow, the atoms that make up your brain are arranged in such a precise, improbable way that you can ask, why does any of this exist? No other arrangement of matter we've ever found can do that. You are the universe becoming aware of itself. And these 5 books, Hawking, Greene, Feynman, Wohlleben, Hofstadter, they are not just pages and ink. They are the clearest mirrors humanity has ever held up to the cosmos. Read them in any order. Read them slowly. Argue with them. Let them confuse you. Because confusion is just the feeling of your mind growing. The links to all 5 are in the description below. And if you want more videos that make the universe feel impossible and beautiful at the same time, subscribe. New mind-blowing content every single week. Because there is no shortage of wonder. We've barely scratched the surface.